Hello dear students, welcome to Devika's Commerce and Management Academy. Holding companies, 4 short problems we have seen. Today one essay problem will start. So this problem is full-fledged problem. Easily you will be able to understand. First of all, I'll read the problem. You can just understand, then after that we'll go for the solution. The problem is given on the screen. You can take a screenshot or note down. So this is taken from Pankaj publication, R.P. Trivedi. So the problem is given like this. The following are the balance sheets of Holding Limited H Limited and Subsidiary Limited S Limited as on 31st March 2009. Two balance sheets are given, Holding Limited and Subsidiary Limited. Balance sheet as at 31st March 2009. Let's see first assets. Sundry assets. It is given 2,58,800 and 1,52,000. Next, 60% shares in S Limited acquired on 31st March 2008. 60% is purchased by H Limited. What is the cost? 81,200. So they have purchased. This is the investment. Investment by the holding company on subsidiary company. How much they have invested? 81,200. This is 60% only they have invested, not 100%. 60% purchased for 81,200. Point to be remembered. Next, preliminary expenses. Always remember, whenever preliminary expenses are given, means this is capital loss. Why do we say it as a capital loss? For that, you need to understand preliminary expenses. Preliminary expenses means the company's promotional point of view. When company is spending any amount, promotional point of view, when company is spending any amount, that is called as preliminary expenses. This is a capital loss. We consider it as a capital loss. Please remember this point. Now asset side is over. Now coming to liability side. Share capital. Shares of 10 rupees each, fully paid. Holding company is 2,50,000 and subsidiary company is 1,00,000. Next, reserves. Reserves are 50,000 and 25,000. Okay, both the companies' reserves are given. When subsidiary companies' reserves are given, so this will be always profit. Last year's reserves are showing, last year profits are showing as this year's reserves. Do you get this point? Whenever we are showing reserves means this is last year's profit. Last year we got, suppose, say 5 lakhs of profit. Out of this 3 lakh we kept it as reserve. How do you got this 3 lakh? From the last year profit only. That is why reserve is considered it as profit. Which reserve? Subsidiary companies reserve. Holding companies we don't touch. Subsidiary companies reserve. What is the amount? 25,000. We consider it as the capital profit. There is a capital loss. What is that capital loss? Preliminary expenses, capital loss. Now here reserve of subsidiary companies is capital profit. Okay. Next, creditors are given. Prepare consolidated balance sheet as at 31st March 2009. First of all, we need to prepare notes, working notes. Working notes already I have prepared because it will take lots of time for me to explain and working out all these things. So I have prepared the working notes. Let me explain this, then after that we'll go to the problem. What are the important things you have to prepare for the working notes? First of all, problem please note down or keep it with you. First of all, remember that shares of the H Limited is 60% only. In the problem it is given as 60% of the shares only purchased by the H Limited. 60% only. So that point I am writing. The shares of H Limited is 60% only. What about the 40%? 40% is outsiders, isn't it? So shares of outsiders means interest of minority. Shares of outsiders are 40%. Let us calculate first capital profit and capital loss. Capital profit means reserves. Which company? Subsidiary companies. Okay. This is capital profit. Capital loss means preliminary expenses. First we'll see capital loss. Capital loss means preliminary expenses. Total capital loss is, that is preliminary expenses are how much? 3,000. Out of 3,000, 60% is H limited. H limited is 60%. This 3,000 into 60%, it comes to 1,800. In the same way, S limited means outsiders. So this is 40%. 40% comes to 1,200. This is about the capital loss, preliminary expenses. What about the capital profit? Capital profit means nothing but reserve. So I'm writing here capital profit, reserve. Which companies? Subsidiary companies. Never take holding companies. Now subsidiary companies reserve is here 25,000. 25,000 I have written. Out of 25,000, H limited is 60%. H limited 60%. In the same way, S limited outsiders 40%. These calculations first you have to do it. Capital loss, capital profit. H limited is how much? S limited is how much? Basic we have done. Then it will be easy for us to calculate the goodwill or reserve. And also we'll be calculating the minority interest. Now calculation of goodwill or capital reserve. Total amount is here, investment is 81,200. Paid up value is total, their capital is 1 lakh, but 60% only they are investing. 60% comes to this much. And capital profit of H limited will take. H limited in the goodwill or capital reserve calculation, H limited 15,000 we have written here. Okay, 15,000. And if you add up, you are getting 75,000. There is a loss also. Here we are adding the profit of capital profit of H limited added. Loss always we have to deduct. We learned in the short problems on the very first day of the class also I told you. Okay, so now here is loss. So loss of which company? H limited 1,800. 1,800 we have deducted. This is 15,000 and 1,800. H limited we are taking into the goodwill calculation or capital reserve. H company, holding company only. Holding company transactions. Okay. So total paid up capital is this much, added capital profit, deducted capital loss. So altogether you are getting 73,200, which is the value of the shares. This is the value of the shares of the subsidiary company. But investment is how much? 81,200. We are investing means we are purchasing for 81,200, where the value of the share capital of subsidiary company is 73,200 only. Value 73,200. We are paying more than that. How much we are paying? 81,200. What is the difference between these two? This is 8,000. Value is less, but we are paying more. It means that's a goodwill. That's a goodwill. So I have written here goodwill. If suppose value is 81,200, okay, our investment is 81,200. We are paying, we are paying 81,200, and our share value is here only 90,000. 90,000. 90,000 is the share value. Assume if it is 90,000, we are paying 81,200, means we are paying less. When we are paying less than the actual share value, that will be capital reserve. But in this problem, our investment is more, share capital is less. So you got a goodwill. Am I clear this? Goodwill will be showing into the consolidated balance sheet as asset. So this will be shown as asset. Intangible asset. Now next, calculation of minority interest. Why we are calculating minority interest? Because 60% only they have invested. It means 40% is outsiders. Outsiders are 40% means there is a minority interest. Nobody will tell you to calculate minority interest. You should understand. Holding company, how much they are investing? 60% they are investing. Rest of the 40% is outsiders. Outsiders means that's minority interest. That we have to calculate. Now kept a heading of calculation of minority interest. For calculation of minority interest, first of all, we'll take the value, that 40%. 60% is invested by the holding company. We'll take 40% value of the share capital. 40% paid up value of the share capital. Share capital value is how much? It's given in the problem, 1 lakh. 1 lakh into 40%, it comes to 40,000. Okay, 40,000. To this we'll be adding capital profit. Capital loss or revenue loss will be deducting. We know the format, right? Now here we have capital loss and also capital profit. Capital profit will add proportionate share in subsidiary companies capital profit. How much it is? This one. Sorry, this one. Profit, no? So profit is 10,000. 10,000 we are adding here. Are you getting this point? 10,000. This is capital profit of which companies? Subsidiary companies. Subsidiary companies, this is. So 10,000 we are adding. There is a loss also, subsidiary companies. Loss is here, subsidiary companies 1200. This we are going to deduct. Here, profit added, loss of subsidiary companies, this is deducted. You are getting 48,800 as minority interest. Minority interest will be shown always in the balance sheet, consolidated balance sheet, liability. Goodwill asset, minority interest, liability. Why liability? Minority interest means H company, holding company has to pay some other day. If not today, some other day they have to pay. So that is why we say it as a liability. Am I clear about this working notes? Yes, then we'll go to the problem. Now the problem is here, I already kept a heading, consolidated balance sheet of H Limited and S Limited as on 31st March 2009. First of all, equity and liabilities. Under that we'll say shareholders funds. Shareholders funds means what do we say? Share capital. Whose share capital? Always remember holding company share capital. Holding company share capital is how much? 2,50,000. So we'll write 2,50,000. Then after that, next reserves are given. So subsidiary companies reserves already we have taken here. Where reserves here? We take only the holding company reserve. Reserve is will be showing always share capital, reserves and surplus will say na. In the same way here we'll say reserves. How much it is? 50,000. Same here only we can write minority interest also, as I told you just now. Minority interest is always liability. Minority interest is 48,800. 48,800. This is minority interest. So apart from that, creditors are there. Creditors, what do you say? You'll say it as a trade payable. We don't say directly creditors, trade payable. How much it is? 40,000 plus 30,000 combined. Current liabilities, current assets, fixed assets, always add and write, isn't it? So this is 30,000 and 40,000 plus 30,000. 70,000. Anything else to write? 2,50,000. Yeah, enough. So we'll total up this later. Now let's focus on the assets. In assets, non-current assets first we'll take. Non-current assets will say first tangible assets, intangible assets. Tangible assets means fixed assets. You know that. Tangible assets. Tangible assets are here. Sundry assets are given 2,58,800 and 1,52,000. Both will add it. 2,58,800 plus 1,52,000. We'll see the calculations later. Non-current assets, tangible assets. Intangible asset is also there. Can you tell me what is intangible asset? Goodwill. Nobody will tell you. Already we have calculated, we know that there is a goodwill, because as per the payment, investment is more than the share value. Investment is more, share value is less. So the difference is goodwill only. Goodwill is intangible asset. So we are writing here intangible asset. In brackets you can say goodwill. How much you got goodwill? 8,000. Anything else? That's all. So we'll use the calculator and we'll close it. First of all, if you see the equity and liability, 2 lakh 50 plus 50 means 3 lakh. 3 lakh plus 3 lakh 70. Oh, sorry. 3 lakh 70 plus 48 800. 4 lakh 18,800. Now here assets 2 lakh 58 800. 2 lakh 58 800 plus 1 lakh 52,000. 4 lakh 10,800. The total of 4 lakh 18,800. Total of liabilities and total of assets got tallied. Consolidated balance sheet got tallied. You know, I don't like to use calculator, but someone is not helping me here. Anyhow, so is it clear? First take screenshot. I'll give you recap once again. Very important problem. You have to understand, whenever holding company is investing only little percentage, like 60% they are investing, it means 40% is outsiders. Outsiders means minority interest is there. So you have to calculate everything in this fashion. So what we have done, first we have written that share of H Limited. Holding company share is 60 and outsiders means minority interest, that is 40%. First we have calculated capital loss. How do you know capital loss? There is a preliminary expenses. Preliminary expenses is always capital loss. And there is a capital profit also. Capital profit means nothing but the reserve of the subsidiary company. Okay. So reserve of the subsidiary company. Both we have calculated as per this ratio. Amount is 3,000, 60% is this much, 40% is this. Okay. In the same way, share capital profit is 25,000. Whose capital profit it is? Always remember, subsidiary companies. Don't touch holding companies. So this also in the same way, 60%, 15,000, 40%, 10,000 you have calculated. Then it will be easy for us to calculate the first goodwill or the capital reserve like this. Then also calculation of minority interest. Goodwill calculation I told you. And in the same way minority interest also. If working notes is clear, then we can go to the problem. Simply we have posted what we have calculated, what is given in the problem. Simple problem. 1 or 2 times you try to work out the same problem without looking at the solution. Understand it. Why we are adding, where we are adding, why we are deducting, why we are not taking, like you just ask questions to yourself. Then you'll get more clarity. Not only this problem, take out your textbook and work out more problems. The more you practice it, it will be easy for you to understand. Stay connected. There are many subjects already prepared in our channel. Check out the playlist and don't forget to share this video. Practice well. Good luck.